creating a multi-platform application in Xcode, and let's name it My Browser. There we go. I'll just save it to my downloads folder, but you can save it anywhere, of course. And then let's just get the canvas to the other side. We don't need that or that for now. So firstly, we want to just create a new file named a Swift file, and let's name it browser view. So there we go, our browser view. Now in this file, firstly, we want to import WebKit. That'll hold the WKWebView, which is the main view for our app. And then we'll also import SwiftUI to allow that WKWebView to be displayed in our app as a SwiftUI view. Now firstly, we want to say if OS is iOS. So now if the user is using this app on an iOS application, I'll just change it there so that it'll show auto complete. So now if it is if the operating system is iOS, then we'll have a structure named browser view, and now it will be a UI view representable, which basically means we can take a UI view and then put that into a SwiftUI view. And now in that structure, we'll now create a variable named WebView. That's a type of WKWebView, and now this variable that is our main browser view. That is the main view that will display the web pages. And then we'll have a function that's makeUIView. This will allow that will create our UI view and into a SwiftUI view. So we'll say there we'll return WKWebView, and so we'll just return the web view. And then we can just say update UI view, which we won't use that for now. And then after we create that structure, so this is a browser view that will show and display web pages. And then we'll say else if our OS is Mac OS. So if the user is using a Mac, now what we'll do is we'll say we're going to create another structure also named browser view. But instead of inheriting NSView representable, UI view representable, we'll inherit NSView representable. That's the only real difference between these two structures will be this one uses AppKit and the other one uses UIKit. And the only visible difference we'll actually see is the NS instead of UI. So we can just say again, we wanted a web view, WKWebView, and we'll just make our NS view instead of UI view. Context will be context, and then we'll just return a WKWebView. Okay, so we'll just return our web view, and then we can just say update. Let's just get autocomplete back. Update NS view. NS view will be WKWebView. Our context will be context. And that's about it. Oh, no, that's about it. So let's just add our indent. So that's pretty much it. These two views. Okay, no context menu, context. There we go. So these two views will show our user web pages. They will be able to interact with them and everything. So now we've got these. Right now they're useless to us because we're not using them. So we'll go into our content view, and we'll just remove all this default stuff from that VStack, keeping the VStack. But then what we want to do is we want to create variables for our structure. One will be a private var at state, and so we'll name that browser view, and we'll just initialize it to our browser view structures. It doesn't matter that there are two structures, one for iOS and one for macOS. Both of them, whether or not you are on iOS or a macOS platform, it will still have that browser view. And then we'll say, and so we'll create another one private variable that's at state, and we'll name this URL text, and then initialize that to be an empty string. This here will store the URL our user enters. And now in our VStack, firstly we want to create an HStack, and then what we do is we want to have another if. So we'll say if OS is iOS. Now we want a text field. This will be where our user enters their text. And so we'll just say URL. That's what it must show, so that the user knows where to enter the URL. And then the text will be URL text. There we go. And now this what I'm about to enter here is the main difference between the macOS text field and the iOS text field for this app. We'll say here dot text in. Let's just get autocomplete. Dot text input auto capitalization. We'll say never. That means because that means that the iOS keyboard won't automatically capitalize text. Like let's say the user is entering www. In general, that's always smaller letters, lowercase. But if it is capital case, if that here is not enabled, if that there is not like that, then it will be capital W, small w, which isn't very nice. And so we'll say otherwise, if it's Mac OS, we'll just say our text field, also yet again URL, and then the text that we'll be able to read will just be URL text. And then we can just go ahead and say end if, and then we're nearly there. We can just say button go. Oh, and just remember that these two text fields, or one really, will be what our user views as that'll be the address bar. Yeah, that's the word I'm looking for. So we'll just say we'll have a button and the text will be go. Now in that button there we want guard let here, and so we want to make sure that the URL the user entered is valid and that we can use it. So we'll just say guard let URL equals URL string URL text. Else we'll just tell ourselves the URL is invalid by printing URL is invalid, and then we'll just return, because we can't continue if we can't unwrap that URL value. Okay, then our web view, the WKWebView, it has a load function. Now that load function is what will load your URLs, but it doesn't load URLs necessarily. It will load a URL request, but that's actually very simple to get a URL into your URL request. All we really have to do is we just have to create a URL request with the URL as one of the arguments. So we'll just say let request equal URL request. See, URL is our URL. There we go, we just got a URL request. And so then all we have to really say is our browser view there. Now our WKWebView, in that we want it to load our request. There we go. There's the address bar and its functions done. Now what we want to do is outside of the HStack, in the VStack, we want to just say their browser view to show our WKWebView or our view representable. Because otherwise all of this has been for nothing. We've just got an address bar and a go button. That doesn't really help us at all, or the user. So now let's test it and see if it works. It should work, hopefully. Let's see. Ah, there we go. So here we can see our URL bar and our go button, or address bar. Why do I keep on saying URL bar? Anyways, HTTPS, let's say developer.apple.com. Let's try that. It won't show you if it's loading or not, but there we go. So you see, we can interact. No, that's not helpful. There we go. We can interact with it. Click links, even though it doesn't show us when things are happening. But you see there, it can take us there. We can even change it to be what? let's say we want to go to Google, https google.com. Let's see if that one works. Oh no. Huh. Okay, there we go, it works. But now that's the iOS version. Whether or not macOS works is another question. And right now it won't work. Because here if you go to our Xcode project there, you see there the My Browser with the app icon, with the App Store kind of looking icon at the very top in this right panel here, and you click on it. If you go to Targets, My Browser, and then we go to Signing and Capabilities, we'll see there, if we scroll down a bit, App Sandbox. What we want to do here is we want to tick incoming connections, server, and outgoing connections client. That'll give us internet capabilities. But iOS, we don't have to do that. It's just really for macOS that we have to do that. And then the build is failing. Let's see why. Yes, I just want to change that. So what we want to do is we want to say my Mac. Let's see if this works. Seems to be building. Whether it works or not is another question. There we go. Let's try Apple's developer website again. https developer.apple.com and go. There we go. It works. Let's try clicking something. There we go. So this is a basic web browser with SwiftUI for macOS and iOS. Not a very complex browser. This is very simple. There's no back buttons, no back button, no forward button. It doesn't even update this address bar. That's another video. Let me know if I should make it or not, and thank you for watching.